the drunken soldier stumbled out of the tavern and was met with the sight of a seductive beauty approaching him, wearing a smile. However, in the next moment, the beauty revealed two sharp fangs and swiftly bit into the soldier's neck. Shortly after, the beautiful woman dragged the unconscious soldier into a magnificent castle. The long-awaited vampire immediately bit into his neck. The aristocrat's dining time had arrived. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a group of young people gathered, plotting a revolution to overthrow the wicked rulers. Little did they know that the rulers they spoke of were, in fact, a group of vampires who not only brutally slaughtered civilians, but also mercilessly exploited ordinary humans through various taxes and means. Unbeknownst to them, their conspiracy had already been discovered by the vampire aristocracy. At that moment, vampires who had come in search directly approached the group of people, revealing their sharp, bloodthirsty fangs. However, the vampires were unaware that the initiator of this secret meeting was none other than the witch Maria and Richter, descendant of the Belmont clan of vampire hunters. With Maria's formidable magic and Richter's attacks, the vampires were swiftly eradicated. The last vampire, subdued by Richter, issued a menacing threat, claiming that the vampire queen Sekhmet would soon descend upon the city, devouring the sun and condemning all humans to a desperate and agonizing death. However, Richter did not believe his words. Afterward, Richter and Maria escorted the others back to the town. On their way back, they discussed the plan to inform the bishop of the monastery about the impending arrival of the vampire queen Sekhmet. They arrived at the monastery and conveyed the intelligence to Bishop Emmanuel. However, Emmanuel simply dismissed their claims without believing them, providing a flimsy excuse to send them away. Richter and Maria returned home. Maria incessantly complained to her mother, Tara, about how annoying the bishop of the monastery had been today. Richter took the opportunity to take a short nap. At the same time, that recurring nightmare appeared once again in his mind. The vampire Ulrox, who had survived for 250 years, suddenly appeared, blocking Richter and his mother, Julia. Julia immediately pulled out her weapon and attacked first. Ulrox swiftly retaliated with his magic, and the two engaged in a fierce battle on the dark streets. As the fight intensified, Ulrox gradually found himself at a disadvantage and was soon knocked down by Julia. Julia then unleashed a powerful flame spell, attempting to burn Ulrox to death. However, a surge of dark energy extinguished the flames. In the next moment, Ulrox transformed into a six-winged serpent. Seeing his mother in danger, Richter attacked Ulrox with a weak magic flame. In an attempt to protect her son, Julia was struck down by Ulrox and impaled by the spikes on his tail, piercing her heart. Ulrox didn't kill Richter because Julia had once killed Ulrox's beloved. He wanted Richter to experience the pain of losing a loved one. Richter abruptly woke up from the nightmare. His mother's death felt like it had happened just yesterday, and then they reconvened and discussed how to deal with the vampire aristocracy once again. And at that moment, a roar echoed in their ears. They immediately rushed outside to investigate and discovered four terrifying demons emanating a sense of dread, surrounding them. Without hesitation, Richter wielded his whip and charged forward. Maria and Tara unleashed their magic, launching an attack. However, these four demons were incredibly powerful, and the three of them gradually found themselves in jeopardy. Just then, a blade pierced through one of the demons, saving Richter's life. It was a young man and woman, Annette and Edouard. Seeing the situation turning unfavorable, the demons turned and fled. Witnessing the retreat of their enemies, Annette's weapon transformed back into two silver plates. Her ability allowed her to disintegrate and reassemble objects. Annette told everyone, "The enemy just now is a kind of demon called Dark Creature, forged from human souls and corpses." Their appearance indicated the presence of a devil forge masters nearby, and their purpose for coming was to find a descendant of the Belmont clan to join forces against the vampire queen. Meanwhile, at the southwestern docks, a magnificent and eerie figure suddenly appeared. If Richter were present, he would immediately recognize that person as the vampire Ulrox, who had killed his mother. At this moment, Richter and the others planned to investigate the Count's castle. Maria's mother expressed concern for everyone's safety and advised against going. However, Richter promised her that he would bring everyone back safely. During the night, they set off towards the castle. Along the way, they learned that Annette's ancestors were gods of steel and war, which explained her ability to control steel and rocks with her magic. Upon hearing this, Richter mentioned that he used to be able to use magic as well, but after his mother was killed, he could no longer unleash any magic. As dark clouds formed, they finally reached their destination. Annette used her magic to control rocks, creating a stone bridge for them to cross. Quietly, they infiltrated the castle and discovered that it was filled with vampire aristocrats. To their surprise, the Count was providing more human corpses to the demons, all for the purpose of forging more dark creatures. In that moment, Annette spotted her mother's killer and could no longer control her anger. As a result, their presence was detected by the vampires. With a roar from the dark creatures, all the vampires turned their gaze toward them. The group fought desperately, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. They had no choice but to retreat. They ran to the riverside, where Annette once again used her magic to create a stone bridge. However, an unexpected tragedy occurred. Edouard, the last one to cross, was surrounded by vampires. Her best friend died because of her impulsiveness, and Annette shed tears of pain. Meanwhile, a small boat carrying human corpses was secretly transported to a hidden location. Demons were carrying the bodies. And behind this conspiracy, the mastermind turned out to be Bishop Emmanuel. Edouard's body was placed inside a mysterious device. When he reappeared, he had transformed into a terrifying demon. It turned out that Bishop Emmanuel was, in fact, a devil forge masters. The next day, Ulrich found the captain of the Holy Knights, Mizrak, and asked him about why he didn't serve the vampire queen. They had no idea how terrifying the vampire queen, Sekhmet, truly was. She was beautiful yet ruthless, and once she descended, the whole world would live under her shadow. Mizrak didn't believe Ulrich's words. Ulrich didn't give him a hard time, turned around and left. During the night, Annette and the others arrived at the city square, rallying the people to resist the rule of the vampire aristocracy. They emphasized the importance of unity in order to overthrow the endless reign of darkness. Just then, with a roar, a horde of demons descended upon the city, launching an attack on the crowd. Richter and his companions immediately fought back. When Annette saw one of the demons, she immediately recognized it as Edouard. Just then, a demon suddenly appeared behind her. In the next moment, Edouard swiftly killed the demon with incredible speed. Witnessing Edouard's betrayal, the demons had no choice but to grab him and retreat. Annette couldn't accept the fact that her kind-hearted friend had turned into what he had become. Meanwhile, Edouard was bound to a bed, and another demon prepared to execute him. Emmanuel intervened, stopping the demon and offering Edouard a chance. He presented a sharp blade and informed Edouard that he was no longer human and must now obey Emmanuel. Back at their base, Annette was convinced that the demon she saw was indeed Edouard. She was eager to rescue him from the clutches of the church, but Richter didn't agree, because the last time they did this, it was because of a lack of planning and Annette's recklessness that led to Edouard's death. While the two debated, Maria's mother, Tara, suddenly revealed that if these demons were indeed created by the church, they would likely be imprisoned in the dungeon. She happened to know a secret passage leading to the underground cells. Richter was shocked. He didn't understand why Tara knew this. However, Tara swiftly changed the subject and led the group to the entrance of the secret passage. Meanwhile, Drolta, one of the vampire queen Sekhmet's subordinates, arrived at the church. Her purpose was to confirm whether the demons forged by Emmanuel met their cooperative requirements. Emmanuel countered her claims, stating that the church only sought to eliminate dissenters with Sekhmet's power. Sekhmet needed the demons forged by him. Both sides were merely using each other for their own benefit. At Tara's guidance, the group made their way through the secret passage and successfully reached the dungeon. Demons patrolled the area, and just as they arrived, a familiar singing voice caught their attention. Caught off guard, they were also discovered by the demons. With seamless coordination, they swiftly defeated the demons in the vicinity. However, as they delved deeper into the dungeon, they stumbled upon Emmanuel and his group. Tara was shocked to see Emmanuel together with the vampire Drolta, and Emmanuel's expression was one of panic, as if he were a child who had done something wrong. Surrounded by demons, a fierce battle was about to begin. Amidst the chaos, Annette approached Edouard, who had turned into a demon because of her actions. Tearfully, Annette apologized to Edouard. At that moment, Drolta suddenly attacked Annette. The battle between the two sides intensified. At that moment, a familiar and sinister presence emanated from behind Richter. In disbelief, Richter turned around to see Ulrich, the figure who haunted his nightmares. In the next instant, Richter turned and fled, driven by his overwhelming fear of Ulrich. With no other choice, the group had to temporarily retreat. Richter, in a daze, sought refuge in a tavern. Suddenly, a hot meal was brought to him. The owner said that the old man sitting in the corner had invited him to eat. Perplexed, Richter asked the old man why he had treated him to a meal. But the old man taunted him for being such a loser. Before Richter could respond, a vampire burst through the tavern doors. Richter reached for his whip but found it had vanished. But the old man grabbed Richter's whip and attacked the vampire. With a single strike, the vampire's head was severed by the old man's whip. Richter reclaimed his whip, but the old man advised him to take better care of it. As the whip held a sacred mission, Richter hurriedly chased after him, questioning his identity. The old man turned around and revealed his name, just Belmont. He was Richter's grandfather. Richter followed just all the way to the lakeside. Still puzzled as to why Just had never appeared before, he had believed his grandfather was dead. Just explained that he had been secretly observing Richter ever since his mother's death, providing support to Tara to ensure she could adopt Richter. Richter was furious. As a member of the Belmont clan, he believed they should courageously confront evil forces instead of hiding in the shadows. Just reluctantly shared his own story, revealing that he had once been a genius in the Belmont clan. He had single-handedly eliminated countless demons with his own strength. However, as a consequence, his wife and friends were killed in retaliation by the forces of evil. He had lost all his powers, and realized that evil was pervasive. He could never truly defeat it, and every time he killed some of them, stronger enemies would inevitably emerge, causing harm to his loved ones in the process. These words deeply resonated with Richter. He remembered his mother, who had died protecting him. Perhaps this was the curse that the Belmont clan bore. Just excused himself to attend to a personal matter, leaving Richter sitting by the lakeside. Suddenly, a group of vampires appeared. Richter immediately launched an attack, but he was quickly overwhelmed and captured. And Just, who had lost her powers, was also captured. The enemies taunted them, proclaiming that after today, the Belmont clan would be history, and Richter's friends would become their food. Their souls would be offered as sacrifices to the vampire queen. These words once again stirred up a storm of anger, fear, helplessness, and terror within Richter's mind. Finally, the absolute power that flowed in his blood and soul awakened. Under his ice and fire magic, the enemies were swiftly eliminated. Afterward, Richter looked at his hands. The magical powers he had lost had returned. This time, he would use this immense power to destroy all the forces of evil. Meanwhile, on the other side, the most powerful vampire queen, Sekhmet, had descended upon the city, surrounded by a horde of followers. Sekhmet unleashed ancient evil powers, and immediately, strange phenomena occurred. The sun gradually lost its radiance, and darkness engulfed the land. As the sun was completely consumed by darkness, the unholy revelry of the demons began. When the vampire queen absorbs the power of the sun, she would become immensely powerful. Violent energy surged within her, and her expression became grotesque and terrifying. In the next moment, flames consumed her clothing. A power that belongs to the gods instantly swept through the entire scene.
I am Sekhmet.
At the same time, Richter and his companions, alerted by the holy knights, learned that the underground of the church was opening a gateway to hell. Only they could venture forth to stop everything. However, Drolta, transformed into a demonic being, had been waiting for them. With her demonic wings spread wide, she swiftly flew towards Richter, engaging him in close combat, both of them eager to tear each other apart. Meanwhile, Richter's companions fought fiercely against the demons. Maria continuously unleashed magical attacks on Drolta. Facing the combined assault, Drolta gradually fell into a disadvantage. However, just as Richter prepared to deliver a fatal blow, an overwhelming pressure, not belonging to this world, enveloped everyone. The war goddess, Sekhmet, had arrived. Faced with Sekhmet, who had transformed into a deity, the attacks of the group proved futile. Richter leaped forward, charging at Sekhmet, and unleashed magical flames with all his power. Sekhmet had just become a god and needed a sacrifice. Maria became her target. In order to protect Maria, Terra voluntarily offered herself as the sacrifice, asserting that she possessed the bloodline of witches and was the most suitable candidate. Without hesitation, Sekhmet seized Terra and bit into her neck. Meanwhile, Richter and the others reluctantly chose to flee, overwhelmed by grief. In the next moment, Sekhmet slit her own wrist and dropped her blood into Terra's mouth. Terra, now having consumed the blood of the vampire queen, became incredibly thirsty. At that moment, Richter and his companions had just escaped and were still engulfed in grief. However, Drolta and her minions quickly caught up with them and launched another attack. However, at the critical moment, amidst the astonished gazes of everyone present, the resplendent prince of the Dark Night, Alucard, suddenly appeared. He stabbed Drolta to death with a single blow.
I am Alucard, son of Dracula. And if you fight me, you will die, like thousands of vampires before you.
Are you really Alucard? I thought you were just a myth.
I hope I'm not too late.